So one of the bigger key elements, I think, strategically speaking, anyways, with this conflict that we're seeing is that it puts the United States in a very strong position in terms of our resources, in terms of oil, natural gas, resources of that nature. So if you look at the bigger picture of all of this, we removed a vicious dictator out of Venezuela. Venezuela is very resource rich. It's very good for our country. And when people say, this whole, well, we don't fight wars for oil, yeah, we do, actually. That's why a lot of conflicts are fought. Conflicts are fought for resources and standing in the world. I would say a close fight issue right now for the United States, for everybody here within our borders, is this hot fight that we're in with Iran. I just watched a clip this morning. One of our submarines, one of our naval submarines, took down the Iranian prize destroyer. I don't remember the name of it, but it's their big flagship, and they sunk it. And there's footage of it, and it was impressive. Over the years, I've watched a lot of training videos, as I'm sure many of you have. You go through and you watch these. They're called SINK-X's, where the Navy goes out and they take old decommissioned ships and then they set them out in the middle of the ocean and sink them, and it's fun to watch, and you're like, oh my god, that's impressive. It's just incredible the amount of firepower that these things possess. And then when you actually see one live in a hot fight, it sets a whole different tone. So I would say the hot fight certainly is that we're in a conflict with Iran, not the Iranian people. We're not in a conflict with the Iranian people. We're in a conflict with their regime. That Islamic fundamentalist regime that has been strangleholding Iran for the better part of 50 years almost, probably in 1979, the Islamic Revolution. We'll talk about that in another video. Near-fight issues, spin-off actions. What do I think a near-fight issue could be for, just our country in general? Spin-off actions, people that, people are going to pick a side. Either they're going to side with the United States and think what we're doing is noble and good and great, which I believe it is, or they're going to side with the Islamic fundamentalists of Iran and want to go out and commit terrorist activities. I talked about this in the last video, how there's purportedly just, thousands of sleeper cells in the United States. I think there could be some truth to that, but there's also a little bit of this notion that if they talk about this enough, they can scare people, they can cow people into inaction. And the reason I bring this up is that if this is something that could be a potential, we're a free nation. We're a constitutional republic. We have a Bill of Rights that protects many things, including up to our Second Amendment. What's that mean for you and I? It means that you and I have the ability to possess arms, defend liberty, and defend ourselves, defend our property, defend our families, on and on and on, etc. Correct? Are you getting the message from this? I think you are. Okay, so deep fight issue is the potential for other nation states trying to test the United States. The United States right now is sending a very strong signal to the rest of the world, and it's this: don't fuck with us. Don't threaten us. Don't terrorize our citizens. Don't terrorize our military members, our armed forces, and don't fuck with American citizens. That's the message that's being sent. It's a very strong message. And there's a lot to this. At the strategic level, there's a lot of moving pieces that you and I are probably not privy to. We're just seeing the brute force action of all of it. But this has been a long time in the making and a long time in the planning. I have no doubt of it. You have liberal Democrat politicians that want to characterize it otherwise. They want to say, oh, Trump's just, going off at the hip and all this. Nothing could be further from the truth. So, yeah, deep fight issue, potential nation-state testing, maybe. I would be surprised. But let's put that in the deep fight, because that could be something that, might come up. And again, back to that near-fight spin-off actions here in our nation, within our borders. Just be prepared, be ready, be disciplined. Go about your business, just go about your day-to-day, but always have your head on a swivel, always have some kind of a plan. If you're in a very high-density public area and something pops off, what are you going to do? Have a plan. All right. Setting the tone, that's what I want to talk about. That's one of my topics, setting the tone. Everything you do sets a tone. The way you conduct yourself, the example that you set, sets a tone. And, to tie into that deep fight, near fight, close fight issue, we're setting a tone in this nation and for the rest of the world. And by our example, I just got back from a run, okay? By our example, we're signaling and telegraphing, at least maybe, here within our nation socially, that the days of just talking about things are over. I'm old enough to know when all of this started back in 1979 with Iran, when they took our hostages, and 444 days later, they were released because of Reagan, because he threatened Iran, said, if you don't release our hostages, or words to that effect. I don't know exactly what was said, but once Reagan got into office, the hostages were released. Because he wasn't fucking around. He wasn't playing games. And for the better part of 50 years, we've been playing this game with Iran and that region, and it's caused a lot of problems. It's sucked us into a lot of conflicts over the decades. And many of us have participated in some of it. So you guys included. I know there are people out there that can say, yep, I've been in some of those things too. And now we're seeing an armed forces here in our country that's been completely liberated. Their rules of engagement have been broadened quite a bit. I mean, when you have the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, going out there and PTing with the troops. I mean, when have you ever seen that? When have you ever seen civilian leadership getting out and conducting physical training with troops? Well, I don't think you ever have. He's a former Army, I think he's an Army Ranger by trade. He was an officer and then retired and became the SecDef, or the SecWar. And he's a real lead by example guy. If you've seen him, in his PT, he's pretty shredded. Dude's fit. So he has a moral authority, in my opinion. He's been there, done that, so he knows what he's talking about. And he sets the example, at least the physical example. It's important. This is like one of the cornerstones of being a Marine. And I'll talk about that in another video. But I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you because I'm trying to bring this all together and prove a point that you have to set the example in almost everything you do. So this last point that I want to talk about is putting plan into action. That's exactly what the United States has done. They've taken a plan to win this war against these Islamic fundamentalists who are, congealed in Iran and intermeshed in Iran. They've put this plan into place to remove them from power and destroy their ability to conduct terrorist operations against the world. Because again, for the past several decades, it's all emanated from that region. And we're doing it with Israel. And we have other allies that are starting to jump on board. Because we took the initiative as Americans to set this ball rolling. Past administrations didn't do shit. They talked a lot. They kicked the can down the road because politically nobody wanted to do what we're doing. And it's easy to sit back in the cheap seats and throw darts at this thing and, and pick it apart. But it's something entirely different to actually get behind a plan and execute it effectively.